What makes a person disappear without a trace? Not just vanish from sight, but dissolve from the world so completely that even time seems afraid to speak their name? Some say the Alaskan wild has a hunger of its own, older than memory, deeper than maps. And on June 2nd, 1963, it swallowed 5 young dreamers whole. They were scientists, not survivalists, not thrill seekers, not fools. Just 5 friends chasing something bigger than books and laboratories. Edward Elrod, Harold Whitlock, Roger Caddel, Bonnie Katz, and Sylvia Hart. They'd spent years tangled in research at Portland State, obsessed with rivers, with geology, with natural systems that shaped and ruined civilizations. The Yukon River was their thesis come alive, a 2,000-mile artery of ice and silt and silence that pulsed through the heart of Alaska into the Bering Sea. It was remote, dangerous, beautiful, exactly what they wanted. Their parents said, be careful. Their professors said, be smart. They said, we are. On a crisp morning in Pilot Station, they set off with 2 canoes, 3 weeks of supplies, notebooks, reels of Kodak film, and a shortwave radio that crackled more than it spoke. Locals waved from the docks, half impressed, half concerned. The group smiled, raised their oars like flags, and paddled into legend. For the first week, things went well. They stopped at abandoned outposts, fished under violet sunsets, laughed over tins of beans and hard bread. Roger, always the meticulous one, kept a detailed journal. He wrote about the clarity of the stars, the weird bird calls at night, the way Sylvia would hum when she thought no one was listening. There was love between some of them, hinted at in glances and gestures. There was trust. More than anything, there was wonder. But on the 9th day, things began to shift. Roger noted it first in the wind. It came from the north, sharp and cold, carrying a smell he couldn't name. Rotting trees, maybe, he wrote, or something buried beneath them. They passed through Apricot Pass on the 11th day, a narrow stretch of river flanked by steep granite walls. No animals, no birds. Just shadows that moved wrong and water that didn't reflect the sky quite right. Then the fog came. It rolled down the cliffs in heavy waves, thicker than any they'd seen before. It swallowed sound, light, time. They camped on a gravel bar that night, building their fire high and tight. Roger's final full entry described Sylvia waking up screaming. She said she saw someone standing at the edge of the camp. Not a bear, a man. No, not a man. She kept saying his arms were too long, his eyes too low. Bonnie tried to comfort her, but Sylvia was shaking too hard to speak. Roger wrote, we searched the perimeter. Nothing, but the trees feel wrong. I feel watched. He underlined that word, watched, twice. The next entry was only half a page. Scrawled, rushed, ink smudged like the page had gotten wet. It said, we shouldn't be here. We heard something dragging against the canoe. Ed swears he saw a face under the water. Not a fish, not a person, something in between. I believe him. After that, silence. When they missed their return deadline, no one panicked. It was Alaska, after all. Delays were normal, but after 5 more days, the families insisted, a search party of local volunteers and 2 state troopers traced the river until they reached the mouth of Apricot Pass. They found the camp, torn canvas, scattered food, 1 canoe gone, the other cracked like it had been dropped from a height. No blood, no footprints, just cold ash in the fire pit and the smell of metal in the air. The notebook was tucked under a rock near the riverbank. The last page wasn't Roger's handwriting. It was shakier, childlike. 1 line. It comes from the fog. The camera, miraculously intact, held 7 developed photos. The first few were normal, smiling faces, tense, river shots, then one of just trees, then one of darkness. Then, something else. A blur, a shape too tall, too thin, behind Bonnie's shoulder. Everyone who saw it described it differently, but they all agreed on one thing. It looked like it was smiling. Authorities never found the bodies, not one. No signs of animal attack, no signs of foul play. Officially, they were declared missing, presumed dead. But unofficially, the troopers who searched the site never went back. One reportedly quit the force a year later, said he couldn't sleep, said he still dreams of the sound the wind made that night. The families held memorials, not funerals. Without bodies, there's no closure, just questions, just nightmares, just a date carved in stone, June 2nd, 1963. But some stories don't end, they just wait. 2 years passed. The story faded, like most do. The friends were remembered in photos and eulogies, in dusty science journals where their unfinished research lived on. But Alaska didn't forget. Locals still whispered about the group that vanished at Aproka Pass. Some said it was the river, some said it was the land. But the old ones? They said it was older than both. In July of 1965, a trapper named Nolan Bragg radioed in from a remote cabin near the Koyukuk tributary. He was panicked, claiming he'd found something the state needed to see. When authorities reached him 3 days later, they found his dogs dead, his cabin door torn from its hinges, and no Nolan. Only his journal, torn at the edges, blood smears on the last few pages. One line stood out. They're not gone. They're still here, just not how they were. Investigators dismissed it. Too many legends in the bush. Too much isolation, cold, and whiskey. They closed the file. Again. But that fall, a researcher named Dr. Ellis Marlowe, curious about the Caddel notebook, secured permission to mount a quiet, privately funded expedition. He brought a small team, a biologist, a linguist, and a native Athabascan guide named Tova Ellick. They followed the original trail, reaching Aproka Pass in 10 days. It was colder than they expected, windless, dead quiet. The fire wouldn't catch properly the first night. Their equipment glitched. The compass spun slowly. On the second night, Tova said, without looking up from the fire, "They woke something. You feel it?" Dr. Marlowe tried to laugh it off, but he'd been hearing things too. Soft splashes near the riverbank, low moans that echoed when the fog came in. He started recording audio at night. On the fourth night, the recorder picked up a whisper, then another, then dozens, some in English, others in a language Tova refused to translate. The biologist disappeared the next day, just stepped into the trees and didn't come back. No sound, no struggle. Only her parka, folded neatly by the camp, and a single photo from the old group wedged under a stone. Roger smiling, but his eyes looked wrong. Too dark, too blank. Dr. Marlowe broke. He wanted to leave. Tova said it was too late. She had dreams of people trapped under ice, banging to get out. She said she heard Bonnie's voice at night, begging not to be forgotten. On the 6th day, they found the ruined canoe from the 1963 group, tangled in a root pile near the water. Inside it, bone fragments, human. One still had a wedding ring. Sylvia had worn one, though she was never married. The final night, the fog came in so thick they couldn't see the fire 2 feet in front of them. Dr. Marlowe's last journal entry simply read, "It's watching. It wants us to remember, to know it took them, not by accident. It chose them." Only Tova returned. She never spoke of what happened, wouldn't talk to the press, wouldn't see a doctor. Her hair had gone completely white. She moved south, never left the city again. She died in 1983. In her safety deposit box, discovered posthumously, was a short letter addressed to the families. It read, "They didn't die." Not all the way. It keeps them, trapped in the cold, between here and something else. The fog is a door, and sometimes it opens. The mystery of the Yukon 5, as they were later called, remains unsolved. Every few years, someone tries to make a documentary or podcast. They interview surviving relatives. They analyze the last photographs, the pages of Roger's notebook, the final tape from Dr. Marlowe's recorder. That tape ends with 30 seconds of silence, then static, then 5 distinct voices whispering the same phrase, "It never lets go." Locals still warn travelers about the Aproka Pass. Most don't go near it. Those who do rarely camp for long. Some say they see figures in the mist, tall, pale shapes with arms too long and mouths that don't close. Others say they hear singing, a woman's voice, soft and sad, floating over the water at night. If you ask the elders, they'll tell you the river remembers. that it doesn't just carry water, but memory, and sometimes it keeps things, not because it has to, but because it wants to. June 2nd, 1963 was the day 5 bright, curious souls went seeking answers. The Yukon gave them something else, and it's still waiting for more.